All right.
Then I don't even know. No. Okay.
All right.
So, inshallah, brother, if I ask any question you rather not to answer, please feel free to just say
Okay.
pass.
All right.
And when your time, if it took more than your schedule allow, please just warn me like 10 minutes prior so I can
Okay.
select the rest of the questions, the most
That's fine.
important question. Okay, so question number one, would you please introduce yourself and in 60 minutes tell me about your career?
60 minutes?
30?
Seconds.
Okay.
Is it 60 minutes? 60 seconds.
Did
I
I
usually
say 60
sometimes,
minutes?
yeah, sometimes I miss them up. So my name is Wanis Chalabi, and I was born and raised in Egypt. I came to the States around 20 years ago. I completed my undergrad at Alexandria University. I majored initially in Arabic, and then I had to complete the requirements of the bachelor's in English because my first master's was in ComLit, comparative literature. And then I was issued my first license to teach 1989. And when I came here, I was able to transfer it without any added classes. And I was certified from Illinois. And after that, I went for my second master's degree, and that was in Ed-Admin. Initially I was accepted in Madison, and then I had a better deal at the University of Tennessee. I went to UTK, and I finished that. Because I'm pretty consistent, I graduated first in class. After that, I was offered a full scholarship for my PhD and curriculum, but I had to decline this because I needed to go out and get a job because the stipend wouldn't be enough for my family to survive on. And I worked as a teacher in Chicago, and then when I went to Tennessee, that was my first principalship. I lasted there for about 4 years, and then I came back for another principal position in Chicago. That was a gig for a year, and then I went back to the state of Wisconsin where I first came, but this time to Milwaukee, not to Madison, and I was given the honor to work at Salam School as the head principal, and I've been there ever since.
MashaAllah. What made you choose your career path?
I just think that I had two, I don't know if those are qualities or I would consider them characteristics. I don't shy from telling people what they need to do, which I think is something that's needed for the teacher because he will be the custodian of the students who are under his or her tutelage. And the second thing is that I have the passion to communicate. And I feel that even when I'm in the classroom, the more students that I have in the class, or even sometimes when colleagues come to observe in the class, I feel like, you know what, I'm given so much power as a teacher, as an actor on the stage, and I even give better and better performance. Added to that, I think that when I see a student, particularly those that mature on their own time, where everybody else is saying, as they are comparing them to other students, that, you know what, so-and-so is doing better than so-and-so, so-and-so has more skills in this and that than so-and-so. Actually, the students who are seen as the underdogs, I feel that those are the ones who really need a teacher, because others, like you will see so many students, or you'll come across so many students in your career where really either with your help or without your help they are really doing very well. Those are very self-sufficient. Those are ones that we would like to claim their success, but at the same time we may have not contributed much to it. While the students who really need a teacher, those are the ones that I really, I feel like, you're making a difference with them. And also drawing on some experience, my older brother and I are 1 year apart, and he was always seen as the perfect student, and I'm the student who is maturing on his own time. I ended up okay, all right, and definitely his He's far smarter. He's a college professor. His IQ blows mine out of the water and
Sure.
everything else. But at the same time, I didn't do so bad. So it's, and all the teachers that have tolerated me or my behavior and guided me are the ones who are inspiring my practice now, because at the end of the day, if none had expected much of me and this is where I am right now, then I think it is justified that I spend as much time and provide as much care and persistence to those students who I really think that they need me as a teacher in order for them to just like flourish. And
And as far as principalship?
well, there is some mutation between your role in the classroom as a teacher and then your role as an educational leader in the building. When you are a teacher in the classroom becomes your own domain. It becomes your own kingdom. Okay, I used to identify it or describe it as my playpen. As that this is where I will allow things to happen and not allow things to happen. If you are in this room, then I own your best interest. Not necessarily I own you. I own your best interest. So you're going to do what I'm asking you to do. I believe that the strongest breeds of principals are those who came out of the classroom. Now, I came out of the classroom where I really thought, I've done everything I wanted to do in the classroom. And I kind of think that I have mastered some good practices that I think that, if we were to generalize this, the rest of the teachers in the building or the rest of my colleagues can really benefit from that. That was my conviction at the time, and then I think my principal said something because maybe I must have ticked her off because we had this unique relationship. She considered me as her son. Actually, her son was my age. And every time I would walk into her office and tell her, hey, Miss Williams, or sometimes when she would allow me to endear her, I would call her Audrey. We need to do this, we need to do that, why aren't you doing this, why aren't you doing that? And I kind of think that at the end she said to me, Anis, I kind of think that it's time for you to just go and get your master's degree in admin and then become a principal, because I think that you have strong opinion of just about everything. And then I looked at her and he said, you know what? Yeah, why don't I do that? It makes sense. You know what? Maybe at the end of the year I submit my resignation based on your advice, and it really happened. I submitted my we left very amicably, or I left her very amicably, to the point that I think 5 years later she invited me to become a co-principal with her. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take off and become a principal. And I kind of think it was a very rewarding decision.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that will lead me to my next question with, if you go back in time, would you change your career, do the same thing? After living the career and see the positives and negatives of it?
I can comfortably tell you that although I'm described as a workaholic, I can comfortably tell you that I haven't worked a day in my life. I enjoyed what I did, so sometimes, maybe I would be under the gun because deadlines are coming up one after the other, very like not with many intervals between them. But it's just like the kind of drive or the kind of passion that I have. And hey, I'm in a business that I deal with people all the time. I deal with students, I deal with parents, I deal with colleagues, and it needs effective communication skills, because we are in the business of reconciling perceptions. Everybody sees it from his or her own point of view, and your position puts you on the top. You are not on the top. Your position puts you on the top. So you can see what others are not seeing, but it really doesn't stop there. Because unless you're able to communicate to others how you're seeing things, and then you are able to get them on the wagon, okay? So you're not just telling, but you're also selling. And I kind of think that I may have some of that. Okay, I've seen some principals who are much more efficient than I am in this area, but I'm not doing horribly. It's okay. Yeah.
Maybe the next question, the answer was embedded in one of your answers. I'm not sure if you'd like to add to that. What have you found as a source of satisfaction in your career? The biggest.
Every time I see in the child's eye the aha moment is very rewarding. Every time that somehow, either because of what I do or in spite of what I do, a person is having aha moment. I got it. Okay, whether that person is a student, and definitely that would be my main interest, because I'm in the business of dealing with students all the time. Those are the ones who are entitled to be in the building, and nobody else is entitled to be in the building. Everybody else happens to be in the building to serve their interest. So the aha moment is very rewarding, very rewarding. I remember that 3 years ago or 4 years ago, the composition class here at Salem School had an opening. And I said to guidance, you know what, I would like to pick up the class. And guidance, actually being very accommodating or very nice, they wanted to give me the honors class. And I said, you know what, no, I would like to take the basics class. I'd like to take the basic composition class, because those who are in the honors class, maybe the teacher, I don't think that they belong to the category of students, the students who need me. Okay, and I feel that this need, whether the student feels it or not, but this need is really what guides the relationship between me and my students. And I told Ms. Taher, I said, you know what, I really would like to get the standard class, because I think those are the students who can benefit from me because they need me, and I'm going to work with them on their basic compositional skills. And it was very rewarding when those students went back to her after that and said, you know what, actually we came out of this class knowing how to write. And it just like, you know, it's an experience that stayed with me, is that I made a difference. So.
If there's any aspect of your job that you didn't expect, caught you by surprise?
Oh, many.
Such as?
You know, communication includes miscommunication inherently.
Okay.
So if you are unable at times to go out of your mind and stand outside to see how what you're saying or doing is perceived by others, then you really haven't done yourself a great service. And sometimes I am locked up in my mind as I'm trying to convey an idea. So some miscommunication may happen here, or as you are in that mode of action. And sometimes the miscommunication may work for you, and it may not work for you. So if you have, like, say, 5 people in the room, and you're trying to tell them something, and that particular thing, it needed some elaboration. You needed to elaborate on that. So as you went down to explain the details for those people, you always have to you have to check in with them every now and then to see whether what you have in your mind is what went into their understanding. And don't be self-elated. Don't be, because you think that you've conveyed that very well, or maybe somehow you're able to speak eloquently, or you have mastered certain lexicons, so you're very fascinated by your polysyllabic words or this and that. Don't expect that others really understood or got the content that you're trying to convey to them 100%. And here is the element of surprise. When those people go out of the meeting and start to execute passionately on what you asked them to do, and here they are hopping, according to them, they are hopping on the wagon, but sometimes the jump is too far to the point that they ended on the other side of the wagon, They are not on the wagon. And you really don't blame them for that. You may want to check with yourself as how they acted is based on their misunderstanding or your miscommunication. So sometimes, and I kind of think that miscommunication is inherent to communication. So we all have to check in for that. Other things that may be surprised is that sometimes people may perceive you totally different than how you perceive yourself. For instance, being a principal of a school who is working with other assistant principals and people will have to see you with, like, because in order for you to be organized and accommodate everybody, so people will have to see you per appointment, this and that. That sometimes may convey to others that you are arrogant. Could be, while you're not really trying to be arrogant. Sometimes even the way that you carry yourself, others may think that, he thinks too much of himself, or maybe sometimes because you are thinking all the time and you are like sometimes you can even like you see people but you really don't see them because you are in your mind, okay? You are not in your eyes, you are behind your eyes. And maybe so you missed out on smiling to them or saying hi or nodding or doing things like that. And these are things that we even if others tend to perceive you this way, there are always moments that you can reconnect with others when others get to say, you know what, he's not really that horrible. He's just like sometimes when he's focused, he seems aloof, but he's a people person too. So making use of those moments can really cater to more effective communication or perceptions. So it could be also you will be surprised sometimes when your memory doesn't work very well for you because you have so many meetings, so many people, and and then you see some of them or one of them in a public gathering and you're drawing blank, and sometimes that surprises the person and even surprises you. So and being somehow in a position of a public figure is not it doesn't have its pluses all the time. So
Exactly. I'm just going through some of the questions that I think you may answer it already, and then if we have time, I'll ask again at the end. But as far as the grad school, was there any part of this job that your grad school did not prepare you for?
I think how it came about, I was solicited to become a principal on a teacher's license. It was a small school in the South. The school was in its fledgling phases. It was in trailers. Actually, in the district, I was known as the trailer park principal. It was in the middle of the tobacco fields in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the school really was my guinea pig. It was my lab. So I was a principal, and I went to the program to become a certified principal.
So you practiced before you go.
Correct. So what happens is that the things that I learned at school, I was able to implement some of that at the Noor Academy, which was the school that I worked at when I was in the state of Tennessee. So I was not really after the degree, but I was after the knowledge. And here is a big difference. People go to college to get a degree. And that degree should reflect certain amount of knowledge, okay? But knowledge is not totally connected with the degree. Like I've seen so many people who have higher degrees, they actually have terminal degrees, but I really don't think that they got the benefit of that because maybe getting the degree was what they were after.
Sometimes that's for maybe, hopefully later discussion, but are these colleges really teaching you what you need to know?
Well,
or just make sure to occupy
actually
time.
my program was really good because and this is actually an extension of being a principal, and then I was shopping to become a certified principal. The program was offered in 3 universities. One of them was really a very nice university. It is not very nice because I graduated from there, but actually the program was number 35 out of 650 programs. That was the rating of the program, the Claxton program. And then I looked at the program at Lincoln Memorial. And I saw that the program at the UTK was 6 credit more. And I chose to go to that program not because it has more credits, but the program was site-based management program. The other one was not a site-based management program. The reason as why I chose the site-based management program is because you become not the executor of all the decisions that are cooked up in the central office. No, you make your own decisions based on the needs assessment. So the 6 more credits actually were in data analysis, and the program was heavy on curriculum as well. So I think as far as the program is concerned, I really was not disappointed. But hadn't my vision been guided by my needs of what I needed to learn from that program, maybe I wouldn't have benefited as much, okay? So I can tell you that all licensure programs have to meet certain benchmarks in order for you to become licensed by the state in which you're going to practice. But again, those benchmarks actually target the basic or the minimal requirements that a principal should have. Okay? Now, that can make you a principal, but it won't really make you a distinct professional. So your seeking knowledge really factor more into that. And also the kind of experiences that you will get on the job. Like, I'm 100% in support of the state of Illinois when they say that you cannot be a principal without being an assistant principal in a district for about 5 years, because they would expect that, you know what, you know all the nuts and bolts, and after that you're going to provide vision based on knowledge. Because some principals are visionary principals, but at the same time cannot advise on how to do the nitty-gritty things. Well, I myself think that if the principal is the captain, and the captain is perched on the bridge of the ship, he should have knowledge of how the ship is run. Okay? He should have knowledge that would guide his vision, so that his vision is not disconnected from reality. Okay? So yeah, I think that the program prepared me well, but the kind of the experiences that I got on the job and the ability to implement what I learned in the program in my school. And after that, actually, when I went to after my 4 years in Tennessee, and then I was solicited to, usually most of the jobs that I got, I was solicited for. I never got a job that I applied for. Like, all the jobs that I applied for, I didn't get. But I was solicited to do, run schools. The 1 year that I spent in Chicago, I kind of think that the benefit of being a co-principal at IFS, which is a very huge school, and working with Cisco systems, and working with the data analysis, and working with the curriculum, was as beneficial, if not more, than the 2 years that I spent in my master's degree.
Okay.
So
then, as I understood from you, like the grad school gave you the basic that, the minimum basic that you need as principal to practice.
Correct.
Not necessarily the skill to make you distinguished or successful or...
Correct. And that applies to every profession, by the way, because, like, say, all doctors pass board exams, all teachers pass licensure exams, but what makes the difference between a teacher and another is not just the passion, but also his ability or her ability to gain knowledge on the job and know exactly, like, you know, that caters actually to your knowing what you're doing. So, yeah.
So if there's anything, any courses, any things you need to keep taking, keep up with, keep updating yourself?
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely. Which was the reason as to why I became a professional student. So far, I have about 12 years of college education. Like say, I go from one program to another. And I tell you something, in our area, any course you take is beneficial. Like the courses don't have to be pedagogical courses. The courses don't have to be courses on curriculum or data
sometimes
analysis.
communication
Oh,
skills.
correct. Sometimes even if you decide to take a course in editing, or maybe if you take a course in certain content area, like say my content area, it will be language. So currently I'm actually finishing another degree in literature. So and I do this because you know you keep sharpening the saw. You keep like in our business, unless you move forward, you automatically move backward. Okay, so there's a lot to keep pace with. There's a lot to stay in touch with. So yes, absolutely, absolutely, and reading too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mashallah. Are there any misconceptions about your career?
Yeah, if you take this position as a job, that is a misconception. Being a principal is not a job; it's a lifestyle.
Interesting.
So if
After do you leave the building?
no, it's a lifestyle because if you're going to have huge number of people that you become responsible for, and somehow you are a lifestyler, like say you would like to do 8 hours on the job, and after that go boat sailing or vacationing, or like say you put yourself after those 8 hours ahead of everybody else, then maybe you're not suited for this job. You're not. This job is a lifestyle because you definitely have to conduct yourself as an exemplar. You definitely, there will have to be a, not a gap or huge mutation between what you say and what you do. In short, you are not just the messenger, but you're also the message. And then knowing that others will get the first steps on your time will pave the way for you to do well on this job. So I knew early on that it's a lifestyle more than a job. It is not a job that you're doing when you are on the job, and then you really don't have to do that once you're outside the school. No, you can't. You can't do this. For instance, I can't be like, say, there are certain behaviors that you will need to maintain outside the school that whether you are working in a private school or in a public school,
Kind of my reputation.
exactly correct. You have certain image to uphold, and when you are a principal, you are a principal 24/7. I remember that I was once visiting a school. I was actually in a meeting with another principal, and then as I was walking, it was Kettle Moraine High School. And as I was walking, I heard a couple of students exchanging profanity. And all of a sudden, the principal in me just like, just sprung up. And then I turned around and I said, well, we don't use this language here. Although this school is not mine, but it's just like, I belong to the profession and not necessarily to a building. And I think I'm very appreciative that they listened and they didn't cuss back at me, or it seems, because they could have done that very easily, but it seems that the level of the energy that came with the directive just told them, okay, don't mess with him. So, yeah, it's a lifestyle, it's not a job.
So how often do you need to take work at home after you leave here?
I'm always on the job.
You couldn't have life outside the profession?
You can have life outside the profession, but you also need to have a spouse who's very understanding, or a spouse who may have given up. Okay, so either way it will work for you. But knowing that you are in the business of supporting others, knowing that you are in the business that at certain point maybe Maybe a board member needs a piece of information. Maybe you will be in a board meeting up to 1 o'clock a.m., this and that. Yeah, they will give you, like, it's a job that will give you a timeline flexibility. Like sometimes I don't even show up in my office here. I could be in Starbucks working, I could be working at home, I could be anywhere else. But see, you'll always see the word working before that. Now, does this mean that you're going to completely lose your life to this mission? It's actually, being a principal, it's more of a mission, it's more of a ministry. Well, you can always preserve certain things. Like, say, for instance, I work out, but I don't have certain time to work out in, because I work out when I know that it will come up, the time will come up in the day, but I also need to be very flexible. Maybe I'm just walking out to the gym and here I'm getting a phone call that, hey, Wanis, by the way, will you please send me that report, this and that. I eat healthy. I try to spend time with my family. Sometimes they're happy with the time that they're getting from me. Sometimes they are not happy, duly unhappy with the time that they are getting from me. But again, so long as you know that the job will have first steps on you, and then everybody, at least this is my take, and then you'll be able to accommodate others too, and you make no apologies about that. You'll become a successful professional, but at the same time, you may have other challenges that you'll need to face somewhere else.
How often rules and regulations change in this career?
Well, in this career, there are two things that are unsettling. The regulations, particularly for the 20 years that I spent in the United States, I kind of think that the regulations are politically motivated. They come on a political agenda, assuming the serving of the best interest of the students, while, a second look at this may lead a person to come off with different conclusion. I'm trying to be politically correct. I kind of think that the profession, or how the students in the United States, with all the resources that we have, we are not very consistent, because the needs assessment seems to be politically motivated, not necessarily reflective of what the students really need. Particularly if we're seeing this in a country that's seen as a first country, like, say, this is not a third country or a third world country. No, some people would argue that we're spending more on the military than we are spending on education. I actually counter-argue this. We are spending a lot on education, but somehow we don't know how to spend it.
Okay. Would you provide some example?
I can give you some example. But let me tell you first about the second malady that we have in the profession. The second malady that we have in the profession actually is related to the first one, which is the inconsistency or being politically motivated as far as decision-making is concerned, is that we have something that's called projectitis. What is projectitis? Every superintendent comes in, would like to apply, or would like to, I wouldn't say apply his own vision, but he would like, to do something to be remembered of, okay? So he starts a new project. And somehow it is not seen, or it is not frequently witnessed, that an assistant or a superintendent stays in his position for more than 2 years. And that would be as much as a superintendent can survive. Now, there isn't really a full-fledged project. Yeah. Okay. There isn't really a full-fledged project, or a project that would yield results in 2 years. So what happens is that we're spending money, we're doing projects, and we're not consistent with those projects. So the projects don't yield results. So the incoming superintendent or the incoming principal would think, okay, that project didn't work, so let's come up with another project. So what happens is that we're just moving from one project to another, which is, we call it projectitis, without even giving a chance for the outcome of those projects to yield. Now, you asked me a question after that.
Can I ask you about the example?
Yeah, let me tell you an example, for instance. The title funds. Title funds are federal funds. The Title I funds for English and Math, Title II funds for professional development, and then Title III funds are for ELL or English language learners. Title funds, actually there were more titles before that. Actually there were 5 titles. There was Title IV and Title V. Title IV was for drugs, and Title V, drug fighting, and then Title V was for anti-bullying, this and that. Somehow the last 2 got chalked off. So now we are left with the first 3. As far as the state of Wisconsin is concerned, for instance, we have Title I. Title I, the feds give the money to a vendor, and the school contracts the vendor. Now, which you wonder why, because the vendor is serving dollar for dollar. So my allotment from the state or from the United States, from the federal government, let's put it this way, could be, say, $1 million. Only $500,000 trickles down to the students in Title I. Why? Because the vendor takes the other half. That would be the overhead. Why? Why doesn't the federal funds come to the school directly, and then we will apply that based on our needs, so I can hire people that are not just restricted to, like, the vendor is their employer. Then we will do away with the overhead that's sucking away about 50% of the money that could have trickled down to the students. And at the same time, we are eliminating the double bossship, because sometimes I'll be in a conversation with the title teacher who's telling me, yeah, but my company, which is the vendor, is asking me not to do this. And somehow I find myself telling him, I hire your vendor. Okay, so, but it's just like, I kind of think there is a reason that I am very comfortable to say I don't understand why it's happening this way.
Is it lack of trust, confidence?
Well, I just don't know, because when I was a principal at the state of Tennessee, the money would come to the school directly, and what happens is that we submit our spreadsheets to the district at the end of the year, and they are counted to the last nickel. So and our achievements even were much better than our achievements here. So I kind of think that, you know, every time that bureaucracy is proliferated, the system does not read itself efficiently, so the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. That would be one thing. The second thing is that sometimes the title funds increase as far as Title II or Title III. And then we don't get informed of the increase at enough time before the deadline. So we don't get to, we are in 2 scenarios that each of them, I actually don't know which is worse than the other, because it's either, okay, let's spend that money before it goes away because it doesn't come back, and or we really don't know what to do with it, and then we lose the chance on spending the money. And again, this is happening because it's large bureaucracy, and the more, I don't think it's streamlined at all. So although we are very appreciative that we're getting funds from the feds, but at the same time I kind of think that those funds could be better used. Now, the one last thing is that the regulations in the title funds, again, are not very understandable. Like, say, for instance, let's say that we would like to fund summer school from title funds. We have a surplus. Fine, they allow this, but they mandate that the students who are going to be beneficiary of these funds in summer school should have been the students who benefited from these funds in the regular time school, like say the school during winter and fall and spring. And okay, so if I happen to have a student whose need was not as dramatic and he was mainstreamed in the classroom, and this student can really benefit from some academic boost in summer so that he stays mainstreamed in the classroom the following year, while other students whose needs are very or more dire can benefit from the displacement to put them in the Title I program during school year. Why aren't we doing this? Why are you mandating that the student who benefits in summer should be the one who benefited from the program in winter? I kind of think we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and it's basic knowledge, and this has been communicated over and again to them, but somehow they are either turning the blind eye or this is falling on deaf ears. You just don't know why. Why is this happening this way? So I'm really thinking that, okay, I'm not going to compare the educational budget to the military budget of the United States, because I kind of think that we have really enough money, and enough money could have then, or could really go directly to address the students' needs, but at the same time it's not happening. So it is not really about how much we should allocate in the budget, rather than let's eliminate the middleman. And but hey, what do I know?
If we're talking about students, how long have you been principal?
How many years? Let's say that's my 16th year.
So in your career, in your journey, do you notice any changes in generations? Like that require you to change your way, the way you conduct your job, tactics?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Drastically?
Oh, yeah. And two things actually cater into this. Number one, when I grew up in a private school, and the environment was very stringently restricted. So there are so many things that wouldn't even cross your mind that you'd be able to do. And again, hey, I finished college almost 30 years ago, so we're talking about different era here. And then moving from this environment to a much more open environment to work as a teacher or a principal in the West, particularly in the United States. Over the period of the last 2 decades, you are able to see dramatic changes in the students.
What direction?
It's very difficult to identify the direction because I'll have my own biases, because, you know, I understand that we cater to the students' interests, and somehow they become the focal point, and they are the ones who are deserving of all efforts to achieve that. But at the same time, the troubling factor here is the sense of entitlement has been progressively, if not aggressively, growing as like from one generation to another. When students feel that they are entitled to certain things that they need to work for, maybe this is the unsettling factor that I have here, or that I see, that, you know, you are going to get what you deserve. And unless you believe that you're not entitled to anything, and you will have to work for everything that you're likely to get, because you also have to be prepared that you can work hard for something that you won't get, because there is always an element of chance or luck in there, then I'm not sure you're really writing a story of success for yourself. And unfortunately, we're detecting that the sense of entitlement is really on the growing, or it is growing very rapidly with students.
How do you change your tactics based on
you know, you are unable to change things before you step to the other side and see how they are seeing this. Okay, so communication is a must there. But at the same time, you're not communicating without passing experiences that would really correct this misconception. Now, for me, the reason as why I'm so troubled by this is because the generations who built this country are the generations who didn't feel any or didn't experience any sense of entitlement. Really,
this comes with prosperity.
Correct.
The
That's
generation who
correct.
did not suffer to
Correct.
accomplish.
You know, they really worked very hard to put this country where it is, and the current generation is just reaping the fruit. And at the same time, I don't think that their turn should stop there. And it's always easier to move from less to more, not from more to less. Like, okay, if I grew up in Egypt, and yeah, I came from a middle class family, and so many things were provided for us that others didn't get. And then you move into a culture that, you know, they call it the wretched American excess, is that you have too much. And when you have too much, you become entitled to that sense of surfeit. It's just like, you know, okay, now what more? Like, say, all electronic gadgets, students with you know, having their own independence. They drive their own cars. You know, I grew up where the whole family had one car, and I think we were even lucky because we were the family with the car in the neighborhood. So students should think of what more they can do, at least for themselves, so that they move forward at a pace that's adequate for how much they have been provided with. So, and definitely you, in a situation like that, you cannot direct, but you can redirect. You can give experiences, you can give examples, and you're better off if the examples are not self-referential. So it is you are telling them about how you grew up, because they can really snub this and say, okay, maybe it's all right, okay, that worked for you, it's not going to work for me. But you can also show them how our other students who have much less than they do are doing much better than they are doing. So.
Do you think me being a woman would cause any extra difficulties in this field?
Unfortunately, yes. And I'm known for being blunt. Regardless of how Western culture has favored the progress and emancipation of the ladies, and they claim that, you know what, you have equal rights, this and that. Somehow, still the minds of people are processing patriarchally. Like, you know, it's more of, I don't want to say that the West is a patriarchal society, but somehow what makes me a leader can make you a devil incarnate. How so? I can comfortably say to a professional, no, you're not doing that, and this is where you're going, and I expect you to act accordingly. Well, not necessarily that I would adopt that mode of action all the time, but I can. And I will be seen as a firm principal who's standing for the mission of the school, who's knowing what he's doing, this and that, okay? Or even if I'm called, or if I'm called a couple of words that are unflattering, the B word wouldn't be one of them, okay? Unfortunately, you are exposed more to the other side of this. So that's why I actually think that female principals can really benefit from seeing or copying not copying, I think I would say following suit of other successful female principals. than successful male principals. And it's an unfortunate thing to say because unfortunately we are just measured by two different yardsticks. Unfortunately. So yes, I could be in a meeting and I could be blunt and straightforward and direct, and I could be praised for that. I've witnessed firsthand female principals who really adopted the same attitude, and unfortunately they were not viewed likewise. So yeah.
Interesting. In this career, does age come to your benefit? Like there's certain careers, like sport, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The younger you are, the better for
Correct.
the job.
At certain point, you will have to know how to work smart, not work hard. Why? Because regardless of your passion and drive, at certain point your stamina will go down, it will be less. Regardless of how much you are rejuvenating yourself, regardless of how well you're taking care of yourself, hey, we all age, and I can comfortably say that about myself. But anyhow, you get older, and as you get older,
I have no
you're
I have
no,
to
you guys
remind
don't
me
get
of
old.
this
You
every
you
day.
mature. We get old. So you. Your drive may stay the same, but your level of energy is not likely to stay the same, and this is biologically or physiologically established. So unless you're able to learn fast during your early years as a principal, and then I'm not really advising for shortcuts, but you have a good priority list and you know what you're doing, and then you train people around you that you can delegate pieces for them to work on, so your school becomes more system dependent than person dependent, then I'm not sure that age will come to your benefit. I became a principal when I was 30 years old, okay? So, and
That's early, inshallah.
yeah, when I sat down with people in the room, and here I'm sitting next to a principal who is 60, and he's looking at me, okay, he's the new kid on the block. And
I once read a book, I think, either first year principal or principal for the first year.
Yeah.
They were talking if you're young and the challenges.
yeah, and then you have all these grandiose ideas. And by the way, actually, their assessment of you is not really very far off, but your assessment of yourself is just like, the way it works is that the less you know, or the less you are informed, the surer you become. You're more sure when you don't know as much. And then when you know as much, you're becoming more skeptical. I really don't know. Maybe it works in this situation, it doesn't work in that situation. So you're holding back on firing off your opinions. So when I was a principal and I was 30, I definitely didn't have the same level of experience that I have now, but I had a lot of drive. And again, what happened to me as a principal during my first year is exactly what happened to me as a teacher during my first year. During my first year as a teacher, I sat across the desk from my principal, and he said to me in no uncertain words, Mr. Shalaby, the reason as to why I'm renewing for you is because the only way it can get next year is up, because you've hit rock bottom this year. And I was so, okay, fine. Well, I was 20, which is okay. My margin of error is far wider, so I'm learning. And then I asked him, why are you renewing for me if I really stunk so bad? He said, because you have the attitude and the drive that I need in a teacher. And I really appreciate that, because he kind of think that my knowledge and my drive and my passion were not aligned with everything that I did. Okay, I kind of think that maybe I defaulted to my preferences, not necessarily to what I needed to do. Okay, now when I was 30 years old, and here I'm a principal, and I was given the keys of the school, and all those teachers are working for me, and I have this high conviction in things that I did in the classroom, And I kind of think that my level of drive even made me blunter than I usually am. I'm sure that I must have rubbed people the wrong way. I even remember that when some of that stayed with me a little bit when I became like say, during my 5th year as an administrator, where I moved to Chicago, and here I am working with the head principal who had advised me to captain my own ship. And she said to me, you know, Anis, you really have to be careful because I can give you a project and I'm sure that you will be able to do it, but at the end you will not have so many people who are celebrating with you that the project was completed because you have steamrolled everybody. And I really needed to wise up to that because my eye was on the what much more than preserving the workforce with me. So yeah, I really needed to strike a balance. So you know, one of the things that you should be doing as a principal is just to have this camera here that, okay, it is not what I think of myself rather than what people think of me, and being able to see yourself through the eyes of others to a certain extent. Then you won't be able to keep so many people on the wagon. And then you can finish a project, but the power of buy-in into that project wouldn't really match how important the project is. So this is one thing that I really needed to be careful as I'm doing. That said, I made my own choices. I decided to be democratic about how, but not necessarily about what. Like, I'm not as democratic about my vision, because I own that. I have property rights on that. I own it. So if it is mine, it's mine. But I don't own the people who are going to work with me on this vision. So telling doesn't work, selling works. And I kind of think that this is the second nature that I have developed. So we're able to do, or at least the way I see myself. I don't know how others see me. Or they tell me nice things when they are meeting with me, but I don't know what they say about me when they are out of the room. But I kind of think that being democratic about how you're going to execute your vision is needed. I don't think you should be democratic about your vision because you really have property rights to this. And I say that to people.
Based on people, at the end of the day, even God himself, people don't agree.
Correct. Listen,
No matter what, you will still find people
correct
don't agree.
Correct.
On many levels.
Correct. That's why you're given certain strategies with people who don't agree. Well, you can sell, you can tell, you can say goodbye to them, but at the same time, you have to think of yourself as the team leader, not the only one in the room. Once you think of yourself as the only one in the room, then you're not really using power, you're not really having power. Unfortunately, power has you. So it's in a position like that, it's absolutely great when you have the power. But once power has you, or once power goes into your head, automatically you are on counterproductive track. Automatically. So at certain point, don't be fascinated with your achievements. Yes, a position like that won't take a person who's self-deprecated. And all leaders have egos, and regardless of what they say, regardless, Gandhi himself may have his own egos, and unfortunately his wife got the brunt of that. But at the same time, you need to know that it is not about you. It's about everybody else in the building that you are given the trust to lead.
I have 3 questions left.
Go ahead.
Fill in the blanks. If you end up being a school leader, school administrator, I advise you to refrain from doing, to be wary of. So I advise you to do.
I advise you to follow your heart and passion and regulate that through your mind so that things don't fly off the handle, and always stay centered. Always know that you are the one who's wearing the tie. And I'm going to tell you where this statement came from. I think I've been extremely lucky, honestly speaking. I got so many opportunities in my life that others don't get. Like, not just didn't get, they just don't get that. Okay? So many windfalls. Like, I went to pray and I was offered a principalship in a different state. My wife agreed to go with me. Even coming here to the States was not much of a challenge. It was not a challenge at all. It became a challenge later on. I worked with great principals. I don't remember one single principal that I did not learn from. I worked with very effective principals. Like, I've always had good English teachers too. So somehow, you know what, I was extremely lucky to be solicited to work as a principal in 3-4 schools, and then you're able to leave your mark on these schools. I think really luck played a lot into that, not necessarily my preparation or whatever, because that comes after this. Like when you are on the job and you're not really thinking so much, you're doing things okay, but being offered the job in the first place, well, I think it's a matter of luck.
If you're not the right person for the job, you wouldn't be offered the job.
Correct, but okay, that maybe applies to the second time, third time, or fourth time. How about the first time? I was offered the job, I was not even known in the community. Okay, I think one of the things that I'm lucky to have is that I'm able to get the attention of others. Now, they call that presence, and I don't think that I worked hard for that. It's just given to me. Even when I walked into the classroom, I didn't have to yell at the students to get their attention. I put my things on the desk and I just taught, and they were there. So I can't even advise on classroom management because I didn't have to go through one single workshop for that. Students were just paying attention inherently. So it's like I didn't work hard for that. But at the same time, I needed to guard myself from being self-referential. Is that, how come you're unable to do this? I'm doing this because, well, you can't ask the question because there are many things that you won't be able to do that others are able to do. These are the individual differences. So I would advise you, I kind of think I'm over answering the question here, is that to follow your heart, your passion, and then regulate that. Yes,
of course.
Your regulate that through your mind. Now, the things that I advise you not to do.
Yeah.
Don't let power go to your head. When power goes into anybody's head, that is the beginning of the end. If not the end, it will just bring the end very fast to everything that he's trying to do. Now, Churchill used to say that she who has to introduce herself as a lady is not. If you have to tell others you are a lady, like this is something we should figure out. Okay, you don't have to tell us that. And you as a leader, you don't have to tell people, I'm in control, I'm in charge. They should feel that. They should come to you. The yardstick of effective leadership is that when others are following you voluntarily, they are following you because they want to follow you, not because you're the boss who can hire and fire. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's better if it happens. What's your third question?
The third one is be wary of.
Well, I don't want you to be wary of anything, but you should be aware of the fact that change is the only thing that's constant about life. And you are in a profession that you can be doing 99% fantastic, and 1% others are not happy with. Unfortunately, this is the 1% that will be aired out. Okay? Like, yeah, like, you know, if you are a student and you got 99 on a paper, you'll be dancing out of happiness. Hey, 99, 90 is okay for me. Actually, 85, 80, okay. But in this position, people are always looking, and not just for perfection, but, and by the way, most of the people who are likely to criticize you, if they were to step into your position, you're not sure that they will even perform as effectively. So, but hey, again, it's a position that should toughen your skin, and there is only one, like, leaders, their satisfaction is not informed extrinsically. It doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. So if you're satisfied that you've done everything you could have done, then you're okay. Actually, what I always say to others is that I have not done for Salem School what Salem School deserves. I have done for Salem School everything I could have given Salem School. So maybe if another principal can come in with a higher set of skills or a different set of skills, will be able to, with fresh set of eyes, will be able to contribute more and add up to this. Also, when I came to Salem School, I did not start off the scratch. There were other principals who really have put their best effort forth, and it really yielded results, and I just got to build on what they built. So
there's few questions, but mashallah, you already answered that, like with other answers. So I'll just gonna jump to the last two. If there's any questions you believe I should have asked.
You pretty much covered it all. I can't think you came prepared. Nothing that comes.
10 questions I just crossed out because it were answered like leadership style,
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Nothing comes to
style.
nothing comes to mind really. No, you came prepared.
Jazakallah khair. Final words then?
I am going to get off my soapbox here and say in lay terms that I actually don't think that a principle is effective unless he has three things. And this could be Sanjay's model, by the way. If the principle is educational, human, and technical, then he is at a point that he will be an effective principal. The question is effective principal is the benchmark, or an exemplary principle is the standard that we all should hold ourselves to? There are two strata that come after the third one, after the technical, is that if the principle is cultural and symbolic. I've worked with so many principals that were educational, human, and technical, and they were very competent principals. I actually may consider myself one of them, but I am not an exemplary principal, because the exemplary principles are those who are cultural and symbolic, and those who will really move outside the box of being a principal to be inspirers. You know, those are ones who are going to inspire other principals. I've been inspired by some of them because they are not so many. But at the same time, it's a constant struggle for me to arrive to where they are at. So I kind of think that I could be somewhat satisfied with where I am and how I have done things, but I also know that I am not the hallmark of the profession. I know that.
Jazakallah khair.
Well, yeah.
I will have another question after we stop the recording.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're
Jazakallah
most
khair.
welcome. Let me see if
Thank you for your time.
my time is yours.